Abortion. For a long time, it has seemed like this is a topic that you shouldn't bring up if you want to have a rational, productive discussion. I, for one, have actually always found abortion debates fascinating, since they're usually highly emotionally charged, involve deeply held beliefs, and yet generally just come down to the definition of concepts. In this case, human life and personhood. To get that question out of the way, I consider human life to begin when it is possible for basic memories to form. So for the purpose of any abortion laws that you wanted to make, that should be the cutoff point, in my opinion. Before that point, I don't really see it as much different from killing any other non-sentient life form. But that doesn't really answer the big question, does it? Am I pro-choice or am I pro-life? Well, before I answer, let me say how much I despise those terms. If you support the right of women to have abortions, it does not mean you're anti-life. And if you think abortion should be illegal, it does not mean you're anti-choice. Those terms are just convenient ways for people to strawman and demonize the people on the opposing side from themselves. It's terms like that which help make this such a contentious issue which may never have a final resolution. So I'm not going to place either label on myself. I'll leave you to do that for me. My personal belief is that I'm opposed to abortion if it's my potential baby being aborted. Beyond that, I don't think I should have any say in whether or not other people can get abortions. I think it's a serious moral choice that everyone should have to make for themselves. So on the legality debate, I'm for legalization of abortion, I guess, but within certain limits, as I've already mentioned. But I personally oppose it on a moral level, and I would encourage other people to feel the same. Now, maybe that sounds like a cop-out, but it stems directly from the way I view sex. When I have sex with a woman, I do so with the full knowledge that it may result in a baby, and I don't have sex unless I am willing to accept the consequences of that risk. To me, it's like if you go skydiving, you accept the risk that the parachute won't open. Yes, it's unlikely to happen, but if you can't handle the possibility of that happening, you shouldn't go skydiving. I personally think if more people felt that way about sex, it would solve many of the problems in modern Western society. Obviously not all of them, but some at least. I also think the legal system should reflect that way of thinking. So here's my idea. If you consent to having sex with someone, that should be a legal contract between the two of you to bring the baby to term if the sex results in a pregnancy. In order to get an abortion, both parties would have to agree to legally void that contract. This means that if the man decides he doesn't want the child, but the woman does want the child, well, too bad, that baby is getting born. On the flip side though, if the woman doesn't want the baby and the man does, she should legally not be allowed to get an abortion. However, if either party signs a legal document saying that they do not want to have the baby, they can legally shed all the parental responsibility. So if the man wants to have the abortion, but the woman wants to have the baby, that's fine, but she's entirely legally responsible for that child. The man has no legal responsibility for that child whatsoever. On the other hand, if the woman wants to get an abortion, but the man doesn't, she can give up her parental responsibilities, and then as soon as she gives birth, the baby is given to the man, who is now completely responsible for it. But she still has to go through the pregnancy. Now, you may say that is unfair to the woman, because for a man to opt out, all he has to do is just sign a paper, but when a woman opts out, she still has to be pregnant for 9 months and then give birth. Well, to that I say, I guess nature is unfair. And the alternative, which is what we do now, is unacceptable. That child may be in the woman's body, but genetically, it's just as much his as it is hers. We recognize this legally the second it leaves her body, so why not extend that to the moment of conception? Feminists would say that these rules are governing what a woman can and can't do with her body, but the child inside her is not a part of her body. That fetus is a separate entity, and legally it should belong to both her and to the father. So yes, she can do what she wants to her body, but she can't do whatever she wants to the separate entity inside her body because it doesn't belong to just her. A woman's choice with what to do with her body begins at the moment she decides whether or not to have sex. I personally think these laws would have a very positive change on society because it would impose very real and serious consequences for having sex. It would also give men some level of control and would provide them with reproductive rights, because in the current system, women have 100% of the control of whether or not the child is brought to term, no matter what the father's wishes are. Men essentially have no reproductive rights right now. So I'm curious as to what you all think about this. I don't expect everyone to agree, but at the same time, I know many of these ideas are not new or original. You've probably heard some of these kind of things before. Although I swear I did come up with this on my own a long time ago with the many online debates I've had taking both sides of the abortion issue. Before I finish, I'll add a couple of details. In the case of rape, the rapist would automatically waive all parental rights, and the victim would have 100% control over whether an abortion took place. This would be true if the rapist was male or if they were female. Also, the waiving of parental rights would be a legal procedure that would require a lawyer or at least a notary public, and would involve the swearing of oaths and whatnot, a very serious thing. In addition, I would make it a legal requirement for the father to be informed of the pregnancy as soon as possible, and for the other party to be made aware when one parent is choosing to opt out. To get an abortion, the mother would have to show these legal documents showing that both parties had agreed to opt out of parenthood. In any case, I would never sign the form, and I'd be willing to raise any child I fathered on my own if necessary. But that's just me. So that's my ideas about abortion and the laws that I think that should exist surrounding this issue. And I'm positive improvement, and I wish you all the best.